Will Papaya rules come into effect here? Or are McLaren going to say, excuse me, Oscar, if you're third and Lando's fourth, you're going to have to let Lando pass so he can win the championship?
I still think that's not a controversial call. If Oscar can't win it in that situation, then you go in. That's basic Formula One team orders. McLaren would rather Lando win it than Max win it. And I think Oscar would rather, well, regardless of what he'd rather, he's paid by McLaren. So in that situation, yes, that's not a complicated one.
Hello everybody and welcome back to The Fast and the Curious and our final race preview of the season. Oh, it's a big one as well, isn't it? 3 potential title winners and it all comes down to one race in Abu Dhabi. Let's get into it. I'm Betty Glover. Hello Christian Hugill in Abu Dhabi, who has been moaning that it is too hot. While I'm sat here in Manchester, 7 degrees, and it's absolutely it down. Christian, no sympathy.
No, moaning's a strong word. What I did say was going from the UK where it was so cold, then having a quite lengthy plane delay, which I basically had 4 hours sleep. And not a complaint. I'm aware I've got a wonderful job. No complaint at all. But going on no sleep plus really cold weather to really hot, I think has really confused my body. So I sort of woke up with no sleep, arrived when it's dark, like walking out the hotel this morning. And I've been like, oh my God, where am I? What am I doing? Like this, it's hot, it's summer. Like, yeah, I'm just in a very confused, jet-lagged state. So forgive me if words are slightly hard to come by.
Oh my God, I feel so sorry for you, Christian. Going from winter to summer, it must be so tough. Right, we need to get straight into it because what a weekend we've got in store. This is how it stands, everybody. If you don't know it already, I'm sure everyone's memorised this anyway. Lando Norris leads Max Verstappen by 12 points. Oscar Piastri is a further 4 points behind. So it means this: if Lando finishes on the podium in Abu Dhabi, he will be world champion for the first time. It wouldn't matter where the other two come. All he needs is a top 3 finish. It's a little bit more complicated for Max and Oscar. If Max wins, Lando needs to finish 4th or worse. Oscar said himself he needs a lot of things to go his way to be in with a shot. He can only win the title if he takes the checkered flag 1st or 2nd, with the other two not making the podium. Christian, do you understand?
I do. Thank you for clarifying, Betty. I do understand.
Surely, Lando is the clear favourite here, Christian.
Yeah, listen, the McLaren car has been overall the quicker package across the season. So he's got the car to do the job, you would think. It's a car that worked well around this circuit last year, and he works well around this circuit. He's not always had a car that can win here, but he has stacked up really well against teammates here. And his race win last year here was one of his best. It was a really good win where he looked fantastic. As you say, Betty, he just needs to finish on the podium, and he's got the tools and the capabilities to do that. Because listen, Oscar was so brilliant in Qatar. He was absolutely fantastic. Max is Max, right? You can never rule out Max Verstappen, even if he doesn't have the quickest car. But as you say, Betty, the thing is, well, he can be beaten by them. So for that reason alone, he has to start as the favourite, and that's not just because he's got the most points. It's a good position for Lando to be in. But of course, to quote the great Murray Walker, the legendary Formula One commentator, anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does.
You say Lando's in the best position, and obviously he is. However, with that comes, I guess, pressure and expectation.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Well, yes, quite. But Oscar's going to be coming into this thinking, I've got nothing to lose, I'm going to go for it. Max is probably thinking, I've got nothing to lose, I can go for it. Whereas Lando, arguably, as the leader, has everything to lose. So I'm intrigued to know how mentally he's going to cope with that. I think he's going to cope really well with it because I feel like his mentality has changed halfway through this season.
Yeah, I think he's in a really cool place. I've said on the podcast a few times recently, I've been really impressed with how he's recovered from setbacks. He seemed really chilled, really happy. Well, there's been chaos around him. He's just been quite chilled. So I am not expecting a fraught, stressed Lando Norris going into this weekend. Again, that's so easier said than done. He will be hard to beat this weekend. Well, will he beat himself? That's so often the case with top-level sports people, that actually it's not their opposition that beats them, it's themselves. Could that happen to Lando this weekend? Personally, I agree with you, Betty. I don't think so. I think he's heading into this weekend in a really good mental place. He's got the car, he's got the ability. He is the strong favourite. What he can't control is chaos around him. And what I think he does need to do is get off the line well. He's lost a place to Max Verstappen off the line a couple of times recently.
Yeah.
It's something that has been levelled at him in his F1 career before, that he doesn't get off the line too well, but he's then recovered from that. But if there's been a chink in his armoury in this recent surge of form, the getting off the line well has been it. I said in Vegas how impressive his pole position was. It was. It was a brilliant performance against Max Verstappen in tricky conditions, beating Max to pole in the way it's huge, but then he didn't get off the line well. And of course, let's be honest, that wasn't what lost them the race in Qatar. It was the McLaren rules strategy. Well, actually, I say that. I'm slightly wrong there, aren't I? Of course, Lando not getting off the line well really didn't help again. So,
didn't help at all.
No, that is where that's going to be the thing that's the chink in his armaments going into this. But again, let's be honest, so long as it doesn't go disastrously wrong, and so long as qualifying's in a good place, him qualifying first and ending up third in the first corner to those two, again, you could be like, well, this is fine. It's still fine to win the championship, but that's something he needs to look out for.
Let's talk about Max Verstappen, because, like you said, you cannot rule him out. You would be an idiot to rule Max Verstappen out of this. He's won 4 times in Abu Dhabi. He's got the best history on this track compared to Oscar and Lando. How much of an advantage do you think that is going to give him?
Yeah, what we've often seen in recent years, even in more Mercedes dominant years, is the Red Bull car coming into its own here. As you say, he's done well, and then in the Red Bull dominant years, Max did well as well. So I guess what I'm saying is that if with Max, if he's got the car, he will convert it into a win round here. But as I say, it's a good Lando Norris track as well. But I'm sort of at the point where we could be on talking on whatever preview podcast we like. We could be in Belgium, Bahrain, Abu Dhabi or Silverstone. Max Verstappen is Max Verstappen. And so rarely this year has he looked like anything other than being sensational. As we said in the debrief of the last race, it's maybe like Barcelona where he lost his head a little bit. Other than that, he's looked almost unbeatable. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if Max Verstappen wins the race. He will be there to pounce. He is the warning sign for McLaren that if you faff about too much, guys, and make life too complicated for yourself, he will punish you. We've run out of things to say about Max Verstappen. He is, for me, operating at the best level in Formula One. So therefore, it's not a surprise if he wins this.
I think if Max Verstappen wins this, he will become Formula One's greatest of all time. Or he'll be up there. He'll be up there. He'll be the Formula One GOAT. Because the fact, Christian, that he's still in contention, heading into the final race, speaks absolute volumes. And anybody that was sort of questioning him as a driver after 2021, Max is just in the fastest car, that's the only reason why he's winning. Turns out, guys, it's not just about the car.
No, and Formula One fans who've been in, fans of the sport for a long time, like my good self, have always said, oh, it's just who's got the quickest car. And Max Verstappen is the slam dunk argument against that. It's like, well, no, he won last year's championship and he didn't have the quickest car pretty much from Miami onwards. I don't like the historical comparisons, and I do get very bored of people going, well, Fangio can't, was better. It's like, it's so hard to compare different drivers of different eras. You can't. But I broadly agree with you, Betty. To me, I'm struggling to remember a Formula One driver who is capable of eking out so much more than their car offers than Max. And there's been people who've said to me across this season, oh, he's had the quickest car all season. No, he's not. Like, he factually hasn't. analysis has been done. The McLaren has broadly across the season been about 0.2 quicker on average. Of course, that comes with flashpoints where, this car goes well on this particular circuit. But this is the year that the car was nowhere near. There was turmoil behind the scenes. And yet, by being consistent, by
Yeah.
being Max Verstappen, by being a rock star, Max has kept himself so stubbornly in it. He's clung on like a child on a climbing frame, just clinging desperately on as they try and grapple and climb higher. That has been Max stubbornly refusing to let go of the climbing frame that is the title battle. Can you tell I'm tired and it's the end of the season because my analogies are running out? He's just always clung on. And if he wins it, if he defies all the odds to win it, it will be one of Formula One's greatest ever World Championship victories. It will be unbelievable because he's got no right to win this championship. And it's not just, although this is a significant part of it, it's not just McLaren holding the door open, it's Max's supreme brilliance as well.
Of course it is. Also, let's not forget, 3 months ago, he was 104 points behind. That is ridiculous. The gap that he has closed to get to this point is insane. Let's talk about Oscar Piastri then. He seemed back to his competitive self in Qatar. You said that he had a brilliant weekend in Qatar, didn't you? Really frustrating for him in the end, though. How do you think he's going to approach this one?
All Oscar can do is go, I went out in Qatar. I certainly answered a few of my critics here, and I put in an unbelievably good performance. That's all I can do. So all he can do is go out there and do the same again. The rest of it is unfortunately Oscar's control, out of Oscar's control. It's almost sort of one of the simpler positions to be in. Just go out and be quick. Let the rest happen around you. There's nothing else he can control. And he was so good in Qatar. And we also, I think, so often expect perfection in Formula One because we've spent so much time watching the likes of Verstappen and the likes of Hamilton. But the level of improvement from Oscar Piastri's second season in Formula One to his third has been sensational, considering this is still a driver only in his third season of F1, that his two title rivals have got many years on him. Oscar has been brilliant this year. His comeback in Qatar was brilliant. And regardless of what happens this weekend, his future is incredibly bright. So all Oscar can go and do is go, I absolutely bloody rocked it in Qatar. So let's go and do the same again and see what the gods have got in my favour. Let's not forget that Sebastian Vettel won the championship, having not led all season. And I know Oscar has led for a chunk of the season, but what I'm saying is Seb went into that race as, it's highly unlikely. If podcasts were a thing back then, all the preview pods would have been going, well, yeah, it's going to be tricky for Seb. And he did it. Stranger things have happened, my friends, than an Oscar Piastri win. So all he can do is go out, to use the old cliche, do his best and see what the Formula One gods are thinking for him.
That's a nice way of putting it. I still think
Thanks, mate.
If I was Oscar, I think, well, this is why I'm not a professional sports person, but I would be going into this weekend still absolutely livid, I think. I just wouldn't be able to get over it.
But you can't do that because we love a football analogy, don't we, Betty? That's where you go into a match too hepped up and get yourself sent off by doing a two-footed tackle. Or in rugby by taking someone. Yeah.
I'd be sat in the dressing room.
Yeah, what you've got to do is put that behind you now, move on. They'll have had their debriefs, they'll have had their talks. You said in the last podcast, Betty, hopefully they'll have learned from their mistakes. Hopefully they will have. You've got to put all that behind you and just start again. Just take it. There is such merit in the old cliche of take a long season like this one weekend at a time. And this is perhaps the best example of that.
Let's talk about Papaya rules then, the thing that everybody is thinking about. Everyone trying to work out how on earth are McLaren going to manage this. So the question is, will Papaya rules come into effect here? Or are McLaren going to say, excuse me, Oscar, if you're third and Lando's fourth, you're going to have to let Lando pass so he can win the championship?
Well, let's address that one. I still think that's not a controversial call. If Oscar can't win it in that situation, then you go in. That's basic Formula One team orders. McLaren would rather Lando win it than Max win it, and I think Oscar would rather well, regardless of what he'd rather, he's paid by McLaren. So in that situation, yes, that's not a complicated one. I think the more complicated one is, say, Max is out the question. McLaren have had the admirable approach of wanting to keep both drivers in it. So many people have said in the paddock across the season that I'm lucky enough to go into regularly, and you hear the talk, oh, it'll get tricky towards the end of the season. Here we are right at the end of the season. This will be so tricky for them to handle because they've got themselves into a situation where what's fair and what's not. So to my mind, the only way they can do it this weekend, with now they've got to the end of the season with both drivers still in contention, which is sort of what they wanted. To my mind, the only thing they can do is go, let's see what happens, guys. Away you go. And not get involved. Just treat it like a normal Formula One race weekend to try and win the Grand Prix for one of their cars. To me, that's all they can do, because the alternative to that gets mind-bogglingly confusing and complicated. Betty, do you agree with me there?
I think so. Well, Zach Brown has said before that he'd rather lose the title than issue team orders. But obviously, the first scenario that we said, if Max is in the lead, Oscar's third and Lando's fourth, we know Lando, if he's not on the podium and Max wins, then he can't win it. So
in that situation, you might as well. Yeah.
But would he, though? I don't know. I don't know if he would, and I don't know if he should. I mean, he should, because it's a team sport. But I don't think it's as simple as that, because if you've been saying all season, just race, and there's no team orders, you can't just suddenly bring in team orders on the last Grand Prix of the season. Can you?
Well, no. I mean, any other Formula One team in history would say we want one of our drivers to win the championship, so it'd be a no-brainer. But as you said in the last podcast, Betty, nobody's ever quite approached it like this. I would like to think that Oscar would want to see a McLaren driver win it. And I would like to think as well from Lando that if the situation were reversed, now this won't happen mathematically, it's not possible, but if there was a situation where Lando's going, I can't win it, I think he would help Oscar. The thing is, I've been asked so many times this season, do the drivers get on well? My belief is the same as is widely reported from any journalist who is lucky enough, like me, to spend time in McLaren at race weekends, to speak to both drivers regularly, to speak to people who work with them directly, to speak to people that know them. They do like each other. They respect each other. They get on really well with each other. They're not friends. They're not going round each other's for dinner, because it's so hard to do that in this situation. They might well be friends when they finish racing, but there is a genuine like and mutual respect there. And when I see them interacting, it's genuine, it's smiling. It's not awkward like we've seen from other Formula One drivers in the past with their teammates. It's not like, oh, these two hate each other. So I, for that reason, think there would be. And I also think if you're Oscar Piastri, I don't know, to have... In that situation, we're hypothesizing a very specific situation here, which I don't want to do too much. But would you?
It is interesting.
Would you want to go into a new? Would you want to go into a new season, sort of being like, I went out my way to block a driver in this team from winning the championship? Yeah. I think you put yourself in a very difficult position there and undermine the whole point of all of this in the first place. So yeah, I don't want to dwell too much on this, but if the broad answer to your question, Betty, is how I would approach it and how it seems logical to me to approach it would be, just let them race and let them be, and let it happen on track. Now you've sort of done what you can, McLaren. Just let it go.
On that, I also think, just very quickly on that specific example, I think Oscar would make that call himself anyway, before getting told to do it. If he knows that he's not going to be able to win it, if he's in third and all he has to do is swap with Lando, I think he would make that call, personally.
But yeah, because he's part of a team, and he sorry, Betty, he's part of a team, and he also would see the effects of a McLaren driver not winning the title. He would see the effect that would have on the team around him who work across both cars. You know, he would have to deal with that. So he'd put himself in an impossible position. So yeah, I do think Oscar would help Lando if he was out of it. If Oscar even has the tiniest chance, I would like to think McLaren wouldn't ask him to sacrifice his own race, and I would like to think he wouldn't do so even if they did. But if and that's why, to go back to my original point, if both drivers are in with a chance, just let it happen and treat it how you treat a normal race would be my surely only way of approaching it. But who knows?
Fascinating, though. Some questions. I've got 2 questions from listeners on this subject. Lewis says, would ignoring team orders hurt Oscar's career at McLaren?
Yes, as we've sort of just discussed, but also I think it would damage his reputation in Formula One as a whole. If he was in a point where he couldn't win it, but he blocked his teammate from winning it, that potentially stops you, being signed to a team in the future. That would come into people's equations. That would be an act of self-sabotage for Oscar that I don't think he needs.
Totally agree, because other teams will look at that and think, he's not a team player. Christina says, are there rules to stop RB asking VCARB to impede or crash into the McLarens to help Max?
Forgive me, I don't have the sporting regulations in front of me. I've had to rush to do this podcast, rush to leave the circuit, etc. So forgive me. I don't. Teams go racing in a certain spirit, right? And I don't think for a minute Red Bull, you can't instruct a car to deliberately crash in the spirit of racing and put drivers' lives at risk. We did see it happen once in Formula One in the past with the Singapore Grand Prix crash gates. Google that if you want to review it. But that is out of the question. That would not happen. But would the B team be used potentially in an on-track battle to try and help? Well, it's only natural that it would, because if you're part of the Red Bull setup and you see that there's a McLaren behind you, you're part of the Red Bull family, right? So you would naturally do that. So we could see a version of that. I don't know what the rules say specifically. Apologies for that. You would see a version of that inevitably, but don't expect anything dramatic like, we'll just take them out, because that's not in the spirit anybody wants to go racing. And it would be so damaging to the Red Bull brand long term that it's just not worth thinking about.
No, we wouldn't see any crashing, but maybe they can help strategically try and stop X, Y, and Z go past or whatever.
Yeah, and to my mind, there's no specific rules against that because we've seen it in the past, So yeah, teams can be teams, and that is part of, unfortunately, if that's your view that you're not a fan of Red Bull owning 2 teams, you might think that's unfortunate. Other people will have no issue with Red Bull owning 2 teams, so it's part of it's the way it is. But I'd be massively surprised if that came into it and that was a massive factor of it. But who knows?
Who knows? Right, when we come back, we'll talk all the driver changes at Red Bull. Christian, the end of the season is getting so incredibly close. The championship battle has been insane. We're all going to miss it so much when that final race of the season comes around, aren't we?
I mean, I'm usually ready for a break at the end of the F1 season, but you just kind of don't want this one to end, do you? Like with so little in it, with Lando and Oscar going between them. But the winter break is getting shorter and shorter. So there's us saying we don't want this season to end, but 2026 will literally be here before we know it.
I know, I think you need a holiday, to be honest. I think we all need a holiday. But us sports fans, we're so fickle, aren't we? Because instantly there is going to be a whole load of new storylines that we're just going to get carried away with. Whole load of new drivers that we're going to get behind and say that they're going to win the championship. And there's also going to be brand new cars for everyone to get used to as well in 2026. And a whole new flipping team joining the grid as well. There is so much drama. I just love it. I love it.
So much drama. But that means now is actually a good time to start plotting out which races you might want to get to next season, because with F1 only getting bigger and better and more exciting, tickets for Grand Prix, they get snapped up so fast.
And that, Christian Hugel, is where our good friends at Gulliver's come in. We've spoken about them a fair bit this season, but if you haven't heard of them, they're basically a cheat code for getting you to your dream race weekend.
And what's been so lovely is the amount of you who've been in touch saying you've used Gulliver's and you've either gone or are going to a Grand Prix. You guys are actually getting in touch with Gulliver's, and it's absolutely brilliant. You guys are telling us how brilliant they are, because as we all know by now, they just take the faff out of all of the logistics that come with following F1 around the world. And trust me, as someone that goes to a fair share of races, if I could pay someone to take care of my travel, accommodation, getting me to and from the race, just letting me enjoy the racing, I would give them a blank check. Take all of my money. Here is my debit card, because honestly, it can be a nightmare. It's so worth doing, having Gulliver's just sort it for you so you can enjoy Formula One.
Here is everything. Take it all, because you always get lost as well, don't you? So it would actually be really helpful for you. It's also pretty mad that you can get everything in one place. And Gulliver's have already started taking bookings for the 2026 season, everybody. So you need to get on it already. If you head to gulliverstravel.co.uk, you'll see packages for some of the most iconic circuits on the calendar, like Silverstone, Monza, Spa, and also Monaco.
Yeah, Gulliver's take care of everything, and there's even Gulliver's tour managers on hand at every race. Like, it can be daunting when you're at these tracks, a long way away from home, in the middle of a foreign country that you don't know. So having somebody just there to talk to is amazing. They make sure every detail of the race weekend is taken care of. That website, again, is gulliverstravel.co.uk. Get planning your 2026 Formula One season right now.
Welcome back, everybody. Christian is in Abu Dhabi, wiping sweat off his brow.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, Christian, I am worried about you in that heat. It must be really tough.
Yeah, I'm about to go into the circuit. I'm loitering outside by the bay, and my phone is so it doesn't overheat in the shade, and I am not. So it's fine, but I can wipe for free. The phone breaking would not be for free, so the phone's taking priority here.
You are looking a little bit red as well, I think.
Yeah, I genuinely forgot to put sun cream on my face this morning as well, which I always do on a hot race. So, yeah, I'm all over the shop, frankly. I've had 4 hours sleep. You're lucky I'm standing.
Well, I know, you are wobbling a bit. You should always put SPF on, Christian, even when
I
you're not
know,
on
I've forgotten.
race.
I forgot. I put it on every morning normally when I'm in warm-ish countries, and I forgot. Yeah, I forgot.
No, you should wear it every day anyway, even in winter. Anyway.
I know, and I do, and I forgot. Leave me alone. I've had 4 hours sleep. I mean, just let a man live. I'm sorry, I forgot. I normally put it on every morning. It's there, it's on the sink. I forgot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's been a long season.
Well.
I'm sorry.
I think I've broken him. I think I've finally broken him.
I forgot.
Right, let's get on to Isaac Hajar then. 22 seats have finally been confirmed for next season, thanks to Red Bull for finally making up their mind. This was a big shock, wasn't it? Isaac Hajar is promoted to the main Red Bull team. It means Lawson keeps his place at Racing Bulls, and 18-year-old Arvid Lindblad joins him. It also therefore means that Yuki Tsunoda is dropped altogether, but stays with the Red Bull setup as test and reserve driver. Poor old Yuki. Let's talk about Isaac Hajar first, because you said when we spoke about this earlier in the season that you'd have been tempted to leave Yuki in at Red Bull for next season and keep Hajar where he is for one more season. That hasn't happened, Christian.
No, my logic in that was that we're going into a new rule set. Yuki is an experienced Formula One driver, and maybe it would have helped them get used to the new rule set. And I did think that earlier in the season. You're absolutely right. I've changed my mind. Yuki has not shown anywhere near the pace needed, and therefore it makes sense to invest in the future and give a young driver the chance to get used to a car in the new rule set from the off. So I've changed my mind. I think Red Bull have done exactly the right thing, and I think I'd have come to that decision towards the end of the season. He said middle of the season when we last spoke about it, that's what I was sort of leaning towards. And part of my reason for changing my mind is Isaac has continued to be more and more impressive. I think he can cope with it. I think he is ready. I think the new rule changes will put him at less of a disadvantage than other new people in at Red Bull, because we've seen with Sainz at Williams, with Hamilton at Ferrari, how difficult it is in the current rule changes to move into a team when your teammate has had a car for a long time, how difficult it is to get used to that. That's exaggerated at Red Bull because Max has got such a unique driving style. So getting someone young and talented in early doors makes a lot of sense. I just hope Red Bull stick with him for a bit and give him the time. If it doesn't start well, I would be saying to him, don't worry, you've got time here. We know it's a new rule set. You've got time. If they don't, then they'll just start going on the same cycle they've had before and nothing will change. I think if they are making Isaac feel comfortable and happy and secure, it will work out well for them. And there's the potential there to have the strongest lineup since Verstappen and Ricciardo at Red Bull. I just hope they give him time if it doesn't go well, because this is a guy that can win races, in my view. It's the most impressive Red Bull driver to come into the Red Bull fold probably since Verstappen, for my money. So I really hope they look after him.
He's up there definitely as one of the best rookies in their first season. He's been brilliant. You just watch him and you think, oh yeah, you've got something a bit special there. I just worry about that second Red Bull seat because we know it's a little bit cursed, don't we, alongside Max Verstappen. But the two of them together, that is going to be fascinating, Christian.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think, Isaac needs to go in. And this is tricky for some teammates when they're going up against a real great to be like, look, you're not going to be on his pace. And I think the sooner people like Bottas with Hamilton and Perez with Verstappen have accepted that, the results came better. You're not going to be on his pace. All right, you might be long term, but you won't be in the future. So I think play the long game from both driver and team perspective.
Do you feel sorry for Yuki Tsunoda? Do you think this is quite harsh?
No, I don't. Yuki's a really nice guy who I've enjoyed interviewing, enjoyed talking to, and has got a good reputation in the paddock. I don't think he comprehensively beats his teammates enough at AlphaTauri RB as it's been. I think that was a main part of the reason why Red Bull didn't think he was up to that seat and only really brought him in when they'd explored all other options and made this, in my view, too premature move to drop Lawson. I think he's shown flashes of speed over his career, but it's not been consistent enough. Did he spectacularly outpace the likes of Ricciardo, Lawson? I mean, he was roundly beaten by Gasly. No. And has he performed well enough in this seat this year? No. Even with what we know in the trickiness of the seats. I've seen a lot of people going, oh my gosh, poor Yuki. I think they're basing that off a likeable, enjoyable personality and character rather than his sheer driving ability. I think certain Formula One drivers come and go, and Yuki Tsunoda has reached Formula One, competed in Formula One really, really well, and has had a solid F1 career and will rightly go down as someone that made it to Formula One and was brilliant. But these drivers eventually fall off the conveyor belt, and for some it's too premature, for some they stay too long. For Yuki, it's about right for me. This is about the right time for Formula One to say goodbye to Yuki Tsunoda. He's a solid backup option. You would put him in the car, absolutely, if one of the four other drivers became ill, injured, there was a last-minute change needed. That makes perfect sense to keep him in the team, to keep him in the setup. That'll be tricky for him, I'm sure, mentally, but no, I think it's the right decision, I think Red Bull have made the right decision all around with not putting Yuki back in RB, because and also what other team would go, do you know what, we think we want Yuki? I don't see it happening. I think it's the right time. And I get no pleasure in saying that because Yuki's a nice guy, but I think it's on track, the right move.
I also think that you would rather invest in a younger driver at this point in that team and allow them to develop. You sort of maybe feel like Yuki has possibly hit his ceiling. Like, is there much more to come from him? I don't know. So I can understand the decision for sure. Let's talk about Liam Lawson, because there was a lot of question marks over what his future was going to be. Would he be staying on? Does he deserve to stay on? He is in fact staying on. What do you think about that?
I think it's the right move because I think he's had so little stability in his career. Coming in as a super sub, being brought back in, getting promoted to Red Bull, being dropped from Red Bull, he deserves a little bit of stability. And actually, if he does perform well, I think what could happen ultimately is what happened to Gasly, and that he was dropped from the Red Bull fold and picked up by another team. I don't think that's going to happen for Tsunoda, but with a stable season behind him, that still might just happen for Lawson. It's a make or break year. I think he needs to do really well and beat Lindblad. If he doesn't, I think this will be 2026 will be his last season in Formula One, but I think he deserves one more shot. And I think he gets a bit of a harsh press, Liam Lawson. He's had to scrap for his Formula One life all the time. So yes, he's been a bit overly aggressive at times, but I like Liam. I've interviewed him a lot of times. I think he's a nice guy. I think some of the sort of stuff you hear about Liam is not fair. And I think, yes, he might have been guilty of over scrapping a little bit sometimes, but that's the position, that's the cards he's been dealt. That's the position he's been put in his Formula One career. So he deserves this. It's a good decision from Red Bull. I'm pleased for Liam, but next year's a really big year for him.
Arvid Lindblad was born in 2007. Does that make you feel a bit sick? Makes me feel sick.
Yeah, but I'm used to feeling old by now.
He's so young, Christian.
He's so young. It's a good move. He's for, since last season, I heard it's been when the paddock whispers started to get really strong about Lindblad, like they did with sort of your Antonellis of this world, that Red Bull have got another one. They're really excited about Lindblad. They want to put him in the car. His junior series record is impressive. He's been impressive in Formula 2. He's coped with the promotions well. With every step on the motorsport ladder, he's promoted. He's done very, very well. So he's somebody that I think, this is not a surprise to me. He deserves this shot at Formula One. And I'm really excited to see what he's made of. And it's a really good barometer if you're up against, similar to Behrman at Haas. If Behrman goes and stacks up well against Ocon, which he's done, you think, hello a minute, this is somebody that can be in F1 for a long time. Well, if Lindblad goes and beats Lawson, that'll work really, really well for him. So, good move. Excited to see. We won't have the raft of rookies we've had this season or next season like we've had this season, but it's nice we've got another one in there, and it's always nice to have a rookie, and it's good for the sport. So, and I think he deserves it. So, looking forward to seeing what he's got to offer.
5 Brits next season. Our British bias is going to be through the roof, Christian. How are we going to cope?
Yeah, I'll be just predicting them for a top 5 every week in, week out. Yeah.
Definitely. When we're back, we'll be answering all of your questions, and we're going to talk about Kimi Antonelli. Welcome back, everybody. I really want to talk about Kimi Antonelli, Christian. Mercedes said he received death threats after the Qatar Grand Prix. He had to change his Instagram profile to black on Monday after just receiving a host of messages on social media. This was after Max Verstappen's race engineer said on the team radio, that it looked like Kimi had pulled over and let Norris through. Red Bull have since said that they regret the comments. But I just think this was just so horrible to see, wasn't it? What is wrong with people? Also, Kimi Antonelli is 19 years old. Can you imagine dealing with all of this?
I think there's a few things I want to say on this. We expect a lot of people involved in Formula One that they're very off the cuff, heat of the moment comments are broadcast around the world. So, a race engineer can be speaking to a driver, and it can be so easy to forget that this can be instantly clipped up and sent around the world. But it's a reminder to those guys that happens. It's a shame Red Bull didn't go as far as to say, we're sorry, but fine. It's certainly a reminder to the likes of Helmut Marko as well, just to be a little bit careful with your words sometimes. But again, heat of the moment, heat of top-level sport. I have sympathy for those reasons. It's also a reminder to the abuse that Kimi got from the wider internet. I'll be the first to admit, right, this year, we've seen a rise in the popularity of this podcast, and with that has brought lots of lovely new listeners. The rise in, as someone that I come on and I give my honestly held F1 opinions, and I've struggled this year at times. Betty, you know this because we're such good friends. I've struggled sometimes with getting stick and abuse. It's been a bit, the step up in popularity of the podcast has brought with it more scrutiny on the words I say, and more. I've had more social media abuse across the board, and I've sometimes found that a real adjustment. I'm okay at the minute, but I've there's been moments this year I've really struggled, and I'm hosting two comparatively small Formula One podcasts, right? So I can't imagine how that feels to be a Formula One driver, because if someone like me, I'd like to think a fairly mentally strong person, has found the adjustment tricky as a broadcaster, I can't imagine the level that it's been with for someone like Antonelli, who is also so much younger than me, right? So I just think it's a little reminder that you might be listening to this and you might have sent stick, abuse, what you think as banter, thinking they won't see it. Oh, it doesn't count because it's online. It does. People see these things. People read these things. It does. Your words do have an impact, even if you're sending them anonymously, even if you're behind a screen. It can be really, really hard. So I think it's just of course, Kimi did not give up a position on purpose. I think it's just a little reminder to people that we need to be careful about the words we use, and that we're supposed to watch this sport for fun and enjoyment, and be in awe of the people that have this talent that we get to watch. And sometimes things will happen you disagree with, but let's just keep into perspective that it's a sport and these are human beings. I think it was just a little reminder to the F1 world that sometimes things have got a bit too heated across the board this year, and we all need to remember there are humans at the centre of all of this.
Well, it's also sport, guys, and the passion is incredible from these fans. I love to see all of the passion. Like, people love it, and people really support their drivers. But also, it is sport. Let's not forget, it's sport. It's entertainment. It's supposed to be fun, and you do not need to take certain actions to heart. You do not need to, say horrible things to people on social media. And also, if you're not willing to say it to their face, don't say it on social media. It's as simple as that. It really is horrible for Kimi Antonelli to have to deal with, especially when he's had, such a good season, and for it to end like this, to the point where he has to change his profile photo to black. It's disgusting. On that note, let's move on. that was a bit dark.
Bit cheerful.
We have got plenty of questions in. Bit cheerful. We've got loads of questions in from you guys, so let's go through some of them. A reminder, by the way, that we are on Fast Curious Pod on your socials. So if you've ever got anything that you want to say or any questions, whack them over. Georgie says, what are your final World Championship standing predictions?
Ooh. I'm only going to go top 3, and I'm going to be really boring. And I think Lando will do enough. I don't think he'll win the race, but I think he'll do enough. So I will go. And do you know what? Oscar was great last weekend, and they're level on points. So I'm going to go Lando, Oscar, Max.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I was going to say as well. But I'm going to change it now, actually. I'm going to go Lando, Max, Oscar, which I'm not happy about, but I'm going to say it. Oh, I am happy, actually. If Lando wins, I'm really happy for that. I don't know why there's so much rhetoric around Lando. Like, he's actually getting a lot of sort of bad stick for winning this championship, whereas it would be amazing if he won it. Anyway, Jenna says, how do I watch the race start without fear? And Nat says, how am I supposed to breathe?
You don't watch the race start without fear. You savour the fear. You savour the nerves and the excitement. It's a reminder that you're alive, and a reminder that you're passionate about something, and a reminder that it's something you love. Revel in it, bask in it, soak it up, enjoy it, because this is why we love Formula One, for moments like this.
Also, how lucky are we that we have got a final race of the season and 3 people could possibly win it? Guys, this is it. This is what sport is about. This is F1 at its absolute best. Don't fear it, Jenna. Enjoy it. And also, Nat, breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. Thomas says, which rookie has impressed or surprised you the most this year, Christian?
Oh, God, it's a really tough one. I'm going to bottle it and say they've all had really good seasons. Bortoletto's not always had the car, but has shown plenty of fighting spirit. I would probably put the other 3 slightly above him, and let's not class Lawson as a rookie for this. Hajar, I discussed, has shown such sheer pace, and that's really, really impressive. And also maturity and ability to battle at times. Behrman has recovered from being a bit mistakey to, again, his sheer pace at the end of the season has been really impressive, as is his overtaking as well. And Antonelli, who started the season so well, and I was so impressed with his start. I was so impressed the way he's recovered from the dip in the middle, considering how much younger he is. I've been really impressed with all of them, and it says a lot that they're all sticking around. So, yeah, really, really impressed with all of them.
I think mine would be Ollie Behrman, because that 4th place finish in Mexico, he nearly made it onto the podium. Love it. Jess says, what unhinged prediction would you like to see come true on the final race?
What I would like to see come true on the final race as an unhinged
just
prediction,
an unhinged thing,
is a 1-2
Lewis Hamilton on the podium.
I was going to say a 1-2 for Ferrari. It is unhinged, but I'm just so sad at seeing Charles and Lewis sad. And as Charles and Lewis being able to smile at the end of the season would see me into the Christmas break with a bit of warmth in my heart. So I'd love a positive. It is unhinged because I don't see it, but I'd love a positive weekend for Ferrari.
Yeah. Andy says, as all 3 drivers could win the Drivers' Champ, will they treat Turn 1 differently this year?
Yeah, so Turn 1 here is one of those, because it's wide, you can get incidents. We saw it last year. So will they treat it any differently? I think if you're... It depends on qualifying, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's really difficult for me to answer that before qualifying. if you're in a position where you've got nothing left to lose and you're fighting for the championship, you sort of think, sod it, I'll have a go. So therefore it could be a bit different. If you might think if you only need to come third and I'm in second, shall I go for this move for first into turn one? Possibly I'll be a bit careful. The challenge of that, the danger of that is that if you even at 1% go a little easy, you could potentially, that 1% heeds you less than you expected and you get flooded and all of a sudden it's gone wrong and you curse yourself for being overly cautious. The answer to the question is, I can't answer that because I'm not a racing driver. There are merits in going easier if you've got more to lose. But actually, this is why they're paid the big bucks. This is why they're super talented. The balance of that is a ridiculously tricky balance. But to not duck the question and to be a bit more precise, I'd be very tempted to be a touch more cautious into turn one, because is it possible to win the race in turn one? Well, possibly, but it's a lot more possible to lose it, to lose a wheel, to get a puncture, to have contact. That's why I'd potentially err on a touch of a side of caution into turn one if I was fighting for a championship.
It makes sense for Lando to be a bit more cautious because he's in the best position, right? He could finish third on the podium and still win the championship. Whereas for Oscar and Max, you probably think they're going to be less cautious, obviously depending on where everyone starts. But they're going to have to go for it, aren't they? We will be on your feeds on Sunday evening, straight after the race. It's going to be Christian and Greg. Everybody, make sure you enjoy it. Enjoy it. Savor every moment. Let's hope it's a good one. In the meantime, we will be all over social media as well across the weekend at Fast Curious Pod. Drop us a follow there if you don't already. And again, feel free, send in any questions that you want. We'll be back after the race on Sunday. Goodbye for now.